Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll visit 6 operations that have made stewardship and conservation a priority as we highlight the 2018 winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award.
Now, from the Denver headquarters of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, it's NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Auctioner. Thanks for joining us. Protecting and improving the environment has long been the focus of America's foremost land stewards, farmers and ranchers. Now, in its 28th year, the Environmental Stewardship Award program recognizes the nation's best cattle and livestock operations for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. These regional winners are dedicated to maintaining and improving their lands for future generations. So today, we're going to share their stories with you. We begin in Region 1 with a visit to the winning operation from New York.
In the southern foothills of the Catskill Mountains, Thunder View Farms began in 1958 when Phil Coombe added 6 head of registered Aberdeen Angus cattle to the family farm on South Hill. Younger brother Dick joined the operation soon after.
We started out with 5 brood cows, one that was no good, 5 calves, and they were 5 bred back, and we're up now to 250 some, 236, somewhere in there. We just passed 100 calves this year, first time ever.
Why we stuck with it, I'll never know, especially in this particular area. But the bottom line was we liked raising cattle and we absolutely loved living here.
Gradually, we've accumulated almost 2,000 acres as a family. And that land is here, and it's not great tillable land, so cattle fits well with what we did.
Thunder View Farms is just 100 miles north of New York City and sits between 2 of the state's biggest reservoirs that supply drinking water to 9 million people. In the 1990s, New York City proposed tough watershed regulations that would have driven most farms out of business. The Coombe family joined with others in the area to convince New York officials that the best way to protect the watershed was to keep the land in well-managed forests and farms. Thunder View was one of the first to adopt best management practices to control runoff on their property.
Coombs have done an excellent job of working with the New York City watershed to keep the water clean and be excellent stewards of the environment. Dick Coombe was one of the founding members of the Watershed Ag Council and was a major player in getting this off the ground.
They've been involved since the beginning, and they've been excellent stewards of the land and worked very closely with the water supply to protect the supply and also to produce a really high quality beef.
I think it's been a huge advantage for the beef industry that we fought the battle and won with the city, and we have a strong partnership with the city. I stand here in the heart of the watershed, and we've taken a negative that should have been put us out of business and turned it into a positive. I'm pretty darn proud of the fact that there's over 200 farms in the watershed, with New York City paying best management practices on those farms to keep the water clean and enabling us to stay in agriculture.
As part of this effort, the Coombe family installed a gravity flow system that delivers fresh, clean water to all of their pastures, allowing them to fence their cattle out of the streams on the farm. They also implemented an intensive grazing system with livestock rotated every 4 to 5 days.
We've realized that if you can put cattle in grass that's anywhere from 8 to 12 inches tall and get them out when it's around 4 inches tall, it will return to 8 to 12 inches much quicker than if you let it get eaten all the way down to the ground. And that provides a higher nutritional value. It's driven our weaning weights. Our weaning average has gone up by over 100 pounds in the last 3 or 4 years as we've instituted higher genetic quality as well, but also rotational grazing.
Concentrated feeding during winter is another challenge, and the Coombe family developed a novel approach to avoid nutrient and sediment runoff. They installed heavy-use feeding pads, and they use silage bags to feed. This provides a healthier environment for the animals while reducing the workload on the family.
we can get up to 3 or 4 feet of snow, which makes it a lot harder for the cows to be on pasture. So what we do, we bring them all into ag bag lane. It's kind of a lane system with ag bags on it. Ag bags are 8 foot wide, 200 feet long, packed full of silage that allows it to ferment in there. And what we do is we just set a wire up on each end and we work our way into the center of it. And we actually have very little waste, because if you run that fence hot enough, that's the high tensile fence, and you're scooting along as a bag, you can make them eat all the way down to the plastic. Then you'll just move it forward the next day, you rake it down a little bit with a potato hook for them, and it works out really well, and our performance is high.
To supplement their electrical needs, the Coombe family built a wind turbine and installed solar panels. These systems provide all the electricity required to operate the farm shop and their freezer beef business. Selling their beef directly to consumers offers Thunderview a valuable opportunity to share its conservation story with the public.
People that buy our meat down in Staten Island or in New York City, they really like to come up. They want to bring their kids to the farm. They want to see the cattle. You have them pet a calf, you know, they appreciate it. They appreciate seeing the cattle on green grass, and those types of things make a customer for a very long time.
From the beginning, creating a sustainable family farm was the goal of the Coombe brothers. Over the years, they've seen Thunderview Farms grow far beyond their expectations.
It's been a dream that I've had since I was a little kid, and it's almost fulfilled. I mean, the cattle part of the thing, the progress that's been made is just, it's astronomical.
I think it's a pretty nice piece of property, and I think it's set up for a viable business, beef business, and it has unlimited opportunities. So I don't know which way it's going to go, but I have a feeling it's going to be some really good things.
One day in a lot of years when I have kids, I definitely want to make sure that they know that this land has always been protected that way with the easements and everything, that it will stay that way, because that's the best way to keep the land.
I'm clearly proud of the cattle, but I'm really proud of what we've done to protect our farm. Protect it from development. It's amazing because your blood, sweat, and tears are in all this, and to know that it's preserved is just heartwarming.
One by one, we're highlighting the 2018 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's head to Region 3 and meet the winning family from Minnesota.
In southwest Minnesota, Landit Land and Livestock has family roots going back to 1928. Today, Mike and George Landit work together to care for their crops and their cattle.
Our operation here is a fourth generation cattle feedlot and farm. We have about 2,200 acres of crops and just over 700 head of cattle on feed all the time.
Mike's always farmed with us since a little boy. He come with me every day. Anytime you can work side by side with your wife and your son, it's just the best. And the rest of the family pitches in too, so we don't want to forget them.
I just love everything about raising cattle. I guess I love being out here with them. I love spending time doing the jobs that it takes to raise them.
Back in the 1950s, Mike's grandfather moved away from raising cattle. But in 1999, Mike brought beef cattle back into the family operation. Since then, the Landits have added a hoop barn and a larger monoslope building to shield their cattle from the weather.
We feed all our cattle under roofs here. It works well for us. It helps just keep the environment more steady for the cattle. Environmentally, with the barns, there's big benefits there because it keeps the manure more consistent. Or we don't have just the rainwater that gets in the manure and then decreases the value. So we get rid of that aspect of it. There's no runoff. There is zero runoff from our barns here or from our feed yards. It's all contained within the barn, and there's no worries about any runoff of that sort coming out of the barns.
On their croplands, Mike and George use reduced tillage systems to prevent erosion. To protect water quality, they've installed buffer zones along their fields to filter any runoff. And they take a precision approach to applying crop inputs, so they've intensified their use of soil sampling.
Grid soil sampling, taking soil samples every 2.5 acres, and they've been doing it for a lot of years now. That's not something new to them. They're on the forefront of that project. And then also, after we get those results, they're really strategically applying the manure at the right rates and making sure we're utilizing that manure as a valuable fertilizer source.
They're integrating, obviously, the manure that's produced on their farm to apply, but they're really looking at soil testing as well as cover crop integration. They actually, through NRCS, they do with the Conservation Stewardship Program, they actually have an enhancement where they do soil tests where it looks at the actual like microbes and the respiration and everything to see how the soil health is doing on their farm.
The earthworms, the microbes, it's all important function of what makes our crops and what gets us the yields we're fortunate enough to get here.
A significant challenge is controlling erosion due to rainfall, so the Landits have partnered with NRCS to build 15 water retaining structures in their fields.
We've built a lot of basins, water retention basins out in our fields to control when we do get a heavy rain. Most of them are built to withstand a 6-inch rain, and they'll hold all that water back, and then they slowly release it through the tile system instead of it all just running down the hill in a matter of minutes. It's metered out, and it hits the creek slower that way when it does get there.
So working with Mike, we're able to clean up the water that is entering the stream. We're able to treat it in the watershed above before it gets to the stream. And so that's why he's making progress that way. And that's why it's so important for our rivers and streams here. They're getting better all along. And it's because of people like Mike and the Landite family as they're doing structures and things like this and doing better management on the land so the water doesn't wash off and take the sediment and chemicals with it.
Beyond their farm, the town of Walnut Grove draws visitors who often see what the Landits are doing. That's because some of their land is on the banks of Plum Creek, site of the Ingalls family farm, made famous in the Little House on the Prairie books. The Landits also benefit from a nearby ethanol plant where they can deliver corn and get distillers' grain to use in their feed ration.
So they have the feedlot, but when you look at inputs into the feedlot, they grow all the corn that goes into the feedlot, but also some of that corn goes into an ethanol plant up the road, and that byproduct gets fed back to the cattle. And then as a feedlot, all the manure in the bed pack goes out into the crops for fertilizer. So they kind of have that holistic approach to sustainability here on one farm.
From crops to cattle, everything works together on Landit Land and Livestock. And it's clear the family tradition of doing what's right for the land is in good hands.
It's about how to make this farm be here another 90 years. What can we do to save money and make it a profitable farm? And they tie together so nice because, it's all economic driven. The benefit is the things we're doing are also environmentally beneficial.
If it's good for the environment, you need to do it. It's just important that we take care of the earth, and sure, it costs you a little money to build some retentions, structures and stuff, but if it's going to save the soil, save the earth, you just need to do it.
And we're all in this long term. Everything we do is long term. I think that's just where some of this conservation stuff comes in. It goes to that same mentality of we're in this for the long haul.
These Environmental Stewardship Award winners are helping to make a difference every day. To join them as a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still to come on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll introduce you to 4 more winners of the 2018 Environmental Stewardship Award, including a family in Texas that is successfully managing 5,000 head of cattle. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It started with a man, a plot of land, and a few head of cattle. That man, your great-grandfather. You've got his name and his legacy, too. It's what you fight to live up to and work to leave behind. With innovation, integrity, and passion that runs as deep as yours, we'll be there. For your operation, for your future, for you. This is why Merck Animal Health works.
Welcome back. Cattle producers can face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting the environment, but they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. Today, we're taking a look at the 2018 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's visit the Region 4 award recipients from Texas.
Cattle are on the move on the Birdwell and Clark Ranch that ranges across more than 14,000 acres of North Texas. It's a scene that's repeated several times each day as husband and wife Emery Birdwell and Deborah Clark lift the fence wire and move their single herd of stocker cattle.
We have what we call a time-managed grazing method, or regenerative grazing. We have 140 permanent paddocks, and we'll run one herd of 5,000 all winter into the middle of the summer.
So this big herd moves anywhere from 3 to 6 times a day. It depends on the quality and the size of the paddock in front of us, the quality of the grasses that we see. 3 to 5, 4 to 6, again, it's multiple moves a day.
We don't want to stay any one place too long, and so by moving every day, we're not doing that. We don't want to get back to that place too quick. So we have to have our grazing planning to know that we're not going to be back, and we have to monitor our grass growth and what's going on out here.
The Birdwell and Clark Ranch was founded in 2004. Emery grew up in the cattle business, but for Deborah, grazing cattle to make a living from the land was a new experience.
I'm married into this, it's not in my DNA. And so I didn't know what all I was looking at. When now through the lens of 14 years, I realized that what I was looking at was largely a monoculture of the little blue stem. There was about 25% of the ranch was bare ground. There were areas of the ranch that were definitely overgrazed, and there were areas of the ranch that were definitely undergrazed.
The thing about what we do is every day we got a chance to learn something new, whether it's the grass, the cattle, or each other.
Emery and Deborah take a holistic approach to managing their land and using animal impact to improve forage diversity. They began with 3 herds of stocker cattle, but when severe drought hit in 2011, they switched to running as many as 5,000 head in a single herd.
One herd grazing is not new science, but one herd grazing at this scale has, as far as I know, never been done.
We were seeing positive impacts from the 3 herds, but when we combined into that one big herd, the benefits that were produced were explosive. In that, it was the diversity of the grasses and the forbs. It was in covering the bare ground, just like what you see behind me.
It forced us first to go to the one herd grazing method. Then we had to come up with a water plan. We knew someday we was going to have to fix the water, and we were forced to fix it. So we went to land pipeline.
Fixing the water included a partnership with NRCS to run more than 25 miles of pipeline throughout the ranch. Then Emery had the idea of cutting a propane tank in 2 to create a mobile watering trough.
Well, we move the cattle, and then at the same time we move that water trough, we'll have a valve set up in that paddock where we can hook that poly pipe that's connected to that water trough to that valve and turn the water on and go. And then every time they move to change permanent paddocks, we move that water trough with them.
We use that mobile water trough throughout the entire ranch, moving it to areas where we want to see animal impact, or in areas where we don't need the animal impact, we move it away from that. But that's what that mobile water trough offers us, tremendous flexibility in using the entire resource of the ranch.
With the water system in place, cattle have been fenced out of riparian areas and stock tanks, allowing for better grazing distribution and rest periods of as much as 120 days for each paddock. And after 14 years of time-managed grazing, the positive impact on the land is visible.
I believe that people can look at what Emery and Deborah have done here with just grazing management. And they have turned this place around and brought the whole ranch in an upward swing of condition and much more healthy environment. None of it is at risk now. They've rescued all the areas that were really sick, and its total ranch is in good condition and getting better.
The fact that we've covered up that bare ground, that's more proof to me than anything that what we're doing is right.
We are ranching so that we can improve the health of this soil, we can increase the organic matter, we can capture the carbon, sequester it and put it down into the soil. Once you get that soil health moving in the right direction, the benefits can be seen in the grasses, and certainly that results in more pounds on your cattle.
You could say that Deborah and Emery, they could bring the piece of ground back to life. This grass here is a eastern gamma grass, and this grass didn't make a presence on this ranch till about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's due to Deborah and Emery's system and their management style that this grass and many others like it have shown up in different parts of the ranch.
Eastern gamma grass is just one indicator of resource health. With plant diversity, wildlife habitat is abundant, and Emery and Deborah often host visitors to share the variety of ways they're trying to continuously improve the ranch. And each day, they work together to build a legacy on the land.
We've been given a gift, and it's our responsibility to take care of it. And in this regard, it's not just to keep it in a sustainable state, but it's to improve it in a regenerative state. That's what stewardship means to me. It's our obligation to take care of this gift we've been given.
Right now, I actually love growing grass and improving this ground because there's not going to be any more land, and this is our legacy. This is our chance to make a difference.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. We'll be back with more Environmental Stewardship Award winners right after this.
The elements can be relentless. Make sure they have respiratory protection to match.
At Case IH, we believe it's our job to provide you with solutions. That's why our Farmall and Maxim tractors, as well as our tools and attachments, are designed with you in mind. From mowing to baling to loading and more, we're here to help turn your to-dos into to-dones. At Case IH, we'll keep your days running smoothly with equipment that's durable, versatile, and highly efficient. No wonder farmers are more loyal to Case IH than any other brand. Visit your local dealer or go to caseih.com/livestock for more.
Welcome back as we continue our look at the 6 Environmental Stewardship Regional Award winners for 2018. The desire to leave the land better than they found it is a common trait among cattle producers, and you certainly see that in action with the families we're highlighting today. Let's head to Region 5 and the winning operation in Montana.
Cows and calves graze along the banks of the Missouri River in south-central Montana. This is part of the Hahn Ranch, an operation with 550 cows that ranges across nearly 28,000 acres of private and public lands. This valley is where the Hahn family has been raising cattle for more than a century.
I'm the 3rd generation on the ranch. My sons are the 4th, and the 5th generation is coming up with nieces and nephews.
Our original ranch stead is underneath of Canyon Ferry Reservoir, which is just north of where we are now. And because of building that reservoir, my family had to relocate in the late 40s, early 50s to the location we are south of Townsend, but still on the Missouri River.
Today, multiple family members work together on the Hahn Ranch. With fewer than 12 inches of rain each year, water is a precious resource. The Hahns have installed more efficient irrigation systems on their crop and pasture lands, and they've added new stock water tanks, allowing them to fence their cattle out of riparian zones.
So we're looking at ways to maintain water quality in those watersheds for just a healthy ecosystem, and also to do things like improve the stream bank health and kept cattle out of the riparian areas that are pretty sensitive and critical.
One major project was the restoration of Deep Creek, a Missouri River tributary that crosses the Hahn Ranch. The family worked with private and public partners to install the Montana Ditch Siphon, rerouting irrigation water under instead of through the creek. That reduced sediment issues, improved water flow, and allowed fish to return.
Deep Creek has been a real spot where have put a lot of work into it on our property in conjunction with the NRCS, the Fish, Wildlife and Parks, the DNRC. Deep Creek has gone from the status of being a non-functioning stream to one that is now fully functioning again. It has achieved that status that it was removed from the impaired, I guess, category you would have to call it.
Immediately after that project was done, we started having fish move up from the Missouri River into Deep Creek here to start spawning. They're so kind of unique and different from a lot of the landowners that we work with. This project, for example, resulted in them having to change their water right. They had to move, and that is a risk that a lot of people don't want to take. And they're really willing to find solutions that work for both of you, even when there's some risk.
At Hahn Ranch, conservation practices reach far beyond the creek beds. Their cattle range on private, state, and federal lands, which means grazing plans are designed not only to sustain the livestock, but also to balance the needs of wildlife.
Early 70s, we started cross-fencing what at one time was about almost 6,000 acres in one pasture. We started cross-fencing, and I can't even tell you the miles of fence that have been put in, but there's now 7 different pastures in that system. And so we try to go into a different pasture at a different season each year and try to rest a pasture, at least one pasture every year.
I would say that there's more grass on their range units due to the rotational grazing systems that they're implementing. Getting stock water out away from the creeks, away from the springs, so that those areas can be left for the wildlife with less livestock impacts has been critical for the wildlife side of it. And then they're leaving more grass every year with their rotation as the rotation changes from year to year.
The Hahn family also manages their farmland in ways that benefit the land and the livestock. Growing wheat, barley, and hay crops helps extend the grazing season while allowing for longer rest periods on the range. In addition, reduced tillage and cover crop rotations have had a positive impact on soil health.
We've converted to quite a bit of no-till farming where we will just we'll graze the crop stubble in the fall or winter with cattle. We feel that the less we can disturb it, the more organic matter and moisture we can preserve and just get ourselves that further along in the game as far as that year and also for the overall soil health.
The Hahn's own or manage land on both sides of a major state highway, so their cattle and their conservation practices are always in the public eye.
We try to be an operation that when people go by, they see that there's improvement. It's not something that's let slide, that they can look at it and go, yeah, I've heard of the Hahn Ranch, I've heard some good things, and that's the way we'd like to keep it.
92-year-old matriarch Dorothy Hahn knows that past generations would appreciate the hard work that's gone into preserving and protecting the land on Hahn Ranch.
Well, they would think it's really going along good, and they're proud of it. They would be proud of their family. They wanted it to continue as a ranch, and when they're taking care of the land and all, that's what they want them to do. Well, I think it's wonderful.
It's just something, I want to do things better and leave the land in better condition than I found it and leave it better for the next generation who will hopefully take as good or better care of it than we have.
To have those roots that go so deep is just a great feeling, and to be able to know that we've contributed to what's here and made it better is even better.
If you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you can find us on Facebook. We keep you posted with information about upcoming shows, farms and ranches we're visiting around the country, and we share legacy photos too. So check us out on Facebook. We'll be back with more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this. Stay with us.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Behringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
Do you know all you need to about working cattle? Did you know there are proven methods that can reduce stress for the animals, for you and your crew? Now there's an easy way for you to learn from the experts who can help sharpen your stockmanship and stewardship skills. In interactive sessions, you'll learn better ways to work cattle more efficiently, skills that can help put more money in your pocket. Find out more and locate an upcoming event near you at the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org.
Welcome back. Every day, cattlemen and women care for their land and their animals. They do so because they're committed to leaving what they have better than they found it. We're featuring the 2018 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's take you to Hawaii to see the Region 6 award winner.
Just after daybreak, Greg Friel is riding through the cattle on the slopes of Haleakala Ranch, which covers nearly 30,000 acres on the island of Maui. The ranch has been owned by the Baldwin family for 6 generations.
And it started when H.P. Baldwin and a group of businessmen, he put together a group of businessmen with enough money to buy these lands from Akanali'ili. That was in 1888, now 130 years ago.
The Haleakala Ranch is a family-held corporation. There's about 100 shareholders that are all family members.
Haleakala Ranch has evolved over time. Today, lands that were once part of the ranch are now a national park. Each year, more than 1 million visitors travel through the ranch to get to the summit of Haleakala.
At one point, 9,000 acres of that roughly was actually owned. The bulk of that was owned by Haleakala Ranch, and so I think it was in the late 1920s there was an exchange, and that beautiful world-class crater area was conveyed to become a national park, one of the first parks, I think, in the system. And again, that to me speaks to the commitment and the history of land stewardship and management at Haleakala Ranch.
The landscape on Haleakala Ranch is widely varied. Drought has reduced their numbers to 1,200 cows, and the ranch team is working to build their herd back up. Some of the cattle forage in drier country near the ocean, while other parts of the herd are rotated through mountain pastures at higher elevations.
Both herds are made up of predominantly Angus, red and black Angus cattle. So the cattle themselves, the breeds are the same, but they do have a little bit of variation in them due to the environment they're in.
You know, I've been very fortunate to work with the livestock program here because what I've learned, you know, again, I come from a pure conservation background, that I don't have a grazing background, but I've realized in a short time that grazing is just a tremendous tool to manage land.
Grazing with enough animals at any one time helps us to control invasive species.
Cattle and rotational grazing do play a key role in the fight against a wide variety of invasive species, which is one of the major challenges on Maui.
We have gorse, we have pine trees, we have other ornamental trees, so we need to manage them.
Gorse being probably the worst one, just because it's something that's so spiny and quickly takes on that hard, thorny quality that it's difficult for livestock to graze on, whether it be sheep, goats, or cattle.
Gorse is a weed in Hawaii. It's native to Western Europe and the British Isles. It was brought here in the late 1800s to Hawaii, and like everything else, the genie got out of the bottle once it arrived in Hawaii. And so it has spread across Haleakala Ranch, where it now covers probably a couple of thousand acres of high quality pasture. So it's just an overwhelming problem when you just jump right into it and you start controlling it without a plan.
The plan to battle gorse includes treatment with herbicides, as well as mechanical removal to prevent younger plants from getting established. In addition, the ranch team is planting thousands of koa trees.
You know, the areas that we're standing in now were once the great koa forests of Hawaii, and it's a very treasured, beautiful figured hardwood, and they grow quickly because this is where they're from. So what we're trying to do in areas within the core of our gorse infestation is plant koa trees at a high density, with the intention of an eventual harvest 30, 40, 50 years from now. But these koa trees grow quick and they have a large canopy, and that canopy can shade out, not completely, but reduce the competitive edge that gorse has.
The team at Haleakala Ranch works with conservation partners to protect the watershed and improve all their natural resources. One major project is restoring native rainforests. In addition, the ranch is a partner in Maui Cattle Company, finishing their cattle to be sold as local beef. Raising high-quality beef, preserving open space, and sharing the story of conservation on Haleakala Ranch are core values. Each year, the ranch team hosts a variety of groups, including the Ag in the Classroom program.
I think it's a very important program that Haleakala Ranch and the rest of agriculture community gets involved with, because these kids are very disconnected from where their food comes from. And the more that we can get involved in exposing them to this, I think the better it is for them and for us as an agricultural community.
Whether hosting visitors or working with the cattle, the crew at Haleakala Ranch takes pride in carrying on Hawaii's ranching tradition and in caring for their historic land every day.
Good stewardship is something I truly believe that my forefathers embraced. What's really nice is the leadership since I retired embraces good stewardship.
In Hawaii, we use this term kuleana. To me, what it means is a professional and a personal responsibility to manage a certain way. And it's professional in that that's our job, but it's personal in that it's just something you feel that it's important to do.
The family, they have the same goals that I have. They want to see this ranch, better and better every year. We just celebrated 130 years of this ranch being founded. And they're looking forward for that 150th anniversary, for that 200th anniversary. I'm glad I'm a part of it.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from all around the country. So check us out at youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll be back with more right after this.
When you're raising cattle, you might have to solve a dozen problems before you even get through your first cup of coffee. Still, one thing we don't ever have to worry about is implant performance.
We use Synvex Swingrass. It's the only true 200-day trim-blown acetate implant for grazing steers and heifers.
And you can actually drink this before it gets cold. Ooh, that'll put hair on your chest.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that's where the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be in 2020. It's the biggest convention just for cattle producers in San Antonio, a city with an amazing history that's packed with great food and fun. You can't miss it. So make plans now for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in San Antonio, February 5th to the 7th. Find out more at ncba.org.
Welcome back. We're bringing you some great stories about conservation as we highlight the 2018 Environmental Stewardship Award winners. Now, let's visit South Dakota for the Region 7 winner.
It's late afternoon, and some of the Black Angus cattle at Moe's Feedlot are out on pasture, enjoying the sunshine and green grass in South Dakota.
We started in 1987 when we come from working for somebody to go out on our own. We had 20 bred heifers in 1988 to calf. And we'd raise 70 head 2-3 times a year. And in 2007 we built our first monoslope barn. We had a passion for cattle, so we just started raising more cattle, and we got to the point where we were feeding 400 head in outside lots and without much facilities.
That changed when John and Danita's son, Brian, returned to the operation. The Mose family knew they needed a way to support future generations, so they installed a new monoslope facility in order to increase the capacity of the feed yard.
We didn't really have the availability to buy any land, so we started investing in what we have here today, the feedlot. And in 2011, we did another expansion to have just 1,999 head, and it's just been great to be able to grow our own cattle out in our feedlot, having the capacity, and also getting other cattle from the area in here to feed and produce good quality beef.
With the feedlot expansion came the need to control any runoff. All of the facilities were carefully designed so water and nutrients are captured before they can reach sensitive wetlands and watersheds.
We're actually surrounded by about 3 or 4 sloughs all the way around us, so it was very important for us to make sure all of our runoff was contained and handled in a safe manner to the environment. So everything is collected from the manure for rain runoff, where nothing goes to our sloughs. Those all stay fresh rainwater, and that was very important for us to coexist with the water holes we have around us.
Careful pen maintenance ensures a dry, comfortable environment for the cattle. Manure scraped from the pens is a valued asset, and applying it to the fields has improved soil quality and crop yields, while decreasing the use of commercial fertilizer.
We've raised our organic matter from 2, 2.5 to 5, 5.5 to 6 to 6.5. And with that, every percent of organic matter that you increase, you get an extra inch of holding capacity. We're keeping the water on the ground, and it's going up in the atmosphere and coming back down in our area instead of running down the river.
The Mose family is always on the lookout for new technology that can help them become better stewards of the land. Their feeding system includes identification tags to allow for increased efficiency in sorting. They also use their tablets and smartphones to keep track of the feed wagon and monitor the health of the cattle even when they're away from home. And for more than a decade, John has worked with South Dakota State University on beef cattle reproduction projects. This research has helped tighten up their breeding and calving seasons.
What we've been able to see is we've been able to synchronize, so our 350 head of cows, within a month, they've all been bred once and had the opportunity to all have calves that 21 days earlier. And that's really helped us to be able to group the cattle, especially where we're start to finish on these calves, where we can get a group of cattle in and feed them continually. It's also helped us jump up our genomics in our livestock rapidly by choosing which traits we need to work on, whether it's more milk or different frame size. We're able to target that and get that in one generation a lot quicker than just with buying one bull.
This family is very willing to try new things. Every year when we finish with a study, John wants to know the results right away. He wants to know what the next step is, what he can try the next year, what he should be implementing as far as management goes over the winter. He's very keen on knowing exactly what the next step is and what he can do to better his operation.
On their operation, the Mose family has planted 25 acres of trees to serve as a windbreak and provide habitat for wildlife. Their pastures are currently in a 10-year easement program, and they put a perpetual easement on 230 acres. Over the years, they've cross-fenced pastures and installed pipelines and water tanks to help improve their rotational grazing system.
It got to the point where we had to start taking better care of the pasture and the ground that we had, because if we didn't, we couldn't put a cow out on there. We'd get a dry year and there'd be no grass out there. We found if we leave the pastures a little longer, they last longer. And one thing they always said, eat half and leave half. And there's a lot of truth to that.
The Mose family believes all their stewardship practices work in harmony to ensure the sustainability of their operation and help make their feedlot economically productive for generations to come.
We got to look for this next generation, and if we don't, who's going to do it? And it's neat to see what we've done.
When we do all this, we're thinking of the next generation. We want to make this land as good or better than what we got it for them. So by making it as good or better for them, they can keep growing and expanding and keep this symbiotic relationship with the livestock and the wildlife.
Ranchers in South Dakota and all across the United States are making a difference and protecting the environment. You can see their stories again and learn how to nominate someone for the award next year by visiting the website environmentalstewardship.org. Up next, it's time once again for our good friend Baxter Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When we start to break down the economics of cattle production on pasture, pasture is the cheapest source of energy that we have for cattle production. Most estimates that you see from universities will say that grazing an animal costs about 45 cents per head per day, and that pales in comparison to the cost of stored feed for supporting that animal. So forages, they're the base of our operation. They're the key to our economic success. So any type of management that we implement that's going to improve that production, whether that's weed control or fertility, is going to help us save money at the end of the season. So when you're looking for weed control options for your pastures, go to rangeandpasture.com and find your local Corteva territory manager for more answers.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
When a new calf hits the ground, his clock starts ticking. A belly full of colostrum gives him his best odds, but if he doesn't get any, his time starts running out. That's when you grab a bag of Oxford Ag Colostrum in their patented feeding system. Fill them with warm water, shake it to mix, feed it with a tube or nipple, and you are done. No bucket, no bottle, no mess, and right on time. Get yours at oxfordag.com. Costs less than a dead calf.
In this wonderful world of animals, we have many specialized books that are available to address behavioral problems. In order to offer outpatient therapy to livestock, there are lots of self-help books that have been written. Let me give you a sample of what we have in our own library. We have the standards, The Lion King, On Golden Retriever, and Stall Life with Woodpecker, and of course the amazing Herefords Are From Venus, Angus Are From Mars, an example of prehistoric rivalry. Others include Chicken Soup for the freshly weaned ruminant's soul, heart-wrenching stories of leaving home, The Holstein Prophecy, Bovine Angels inspire milkers to greater production, and we have The Joy of Artificial Insemination, yes, doing the best you can with what you've got. And of course, on the bestseller list now, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Porcines, how to organize your own pig pen. Codependent no more. Breaking the herd habit, earn millions without leaving your stall. And of course the useful 9 Steps to Parasitic Freedom. Say goodbye to lice. And for those of you who like to go to the track, Memoirs of a Racetrack Psychologist, The Goat That Listens to Horses. One day my soul just opened up. The tale of one cow's battle with foot rot. Protein power. Eat urea and like it. Don't sweat the small stuff. Shetlands improve their self-esteem. And of course, cook right for your type. Rumen versus stomach versus gizzard. And lest you think ungulates don't read for fun, I offer these last titles. The Sheep Whisperer, The Cow from Snowy River, A Power Line Runs Through It, Ducktail Envy, Elvis Meets Donald, and The Classic Feedlots of Madison County. These books are all available at Barnes & Stables bookstore. Note, we do not carry the dairy of Anne Frank because, frankly, it's in poor taste, and the hot dog people would sue us. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We always enjoy our visits with you. Stay with us. We'll have more when we come back.
How's your production on pasture? Are profits down? Are weight gains down? What are you going to do about it? Do something cost-effective. Do something that will make a difference. To add the first and proven leader in feed-through horn fly control to your cattle rations, ask for it by name, Alticid IGR.
Welcome back. For this week's Legacy Photos, we're taking a look at some beautiful images from the 2018 Environmental Stewardship Award-winning operations. That's all for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.